All right, we're live now. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the third session of the sixth annual Residency Informational Forum, hosted by New York Medical College Anesthesia Interest Group. I'm Alexander Monteith. I'm the president of the NYMC AIG chapter. And first off, I'd like to thank all our panelists for joining us tonight. And special thanks to Dr. Abramowicz and Dr. Weber, faculty advisors who help us put on events like this. And now I'd like to hand it over to the moderators before we get started. Alexa Rendon, the ASA alternate delegate for our NYMC AIG, and Noam Lax, an M4 member of our AIG. All right, take it away, guys.
Hi, I'm glad to have everyone here today. We're going to start out by giving everyone a chance to introduce themselves and give a brief synopsis of your program. Please try to keep it under 90 seconds. We'll start out with Dr. Abramowicz at WMC.
Good evening, everyone. Of course, very happy to be here. Sixth annual forum. I think it's a great opportunity for people to anonymously, without trying to impress us, hear about what we have to say. I'm currently associate program director. I gladly gave away the residency program to a super qualified Dr. Sarah Smith last August. But since we're going to pretty soon be 62 residents, she needs some administrative help. So here I am. And yeah, we were just talking with Dr. Aronsohn about this upcoming year. We're very excited about application numbers and quality of the applicants, and etc. So it's coming up quickly, and glad to be here. And I hope I can shed some light on the developments here in Westchester.
Thank you. And then we'll move on to Dr. Stebbins at University of Vermont.
There we go. My name is Emily Stebbins. I'm a pediatric anesthesiologist, and I've been program director at the University of Vermont for 8 years, starting in on my 9th year now. I really enjoy my job as both an anesthesiologist and resident advocate, and excited to be here tonight. Interestingly, this is one of those things where recruitment season kind of comes in a cyclical phase, and it's hard to believe that we're starting it again because it feels like we just finished it. But excited to meet all the new residents. I think the residency in all of our institutions is a critical part of our job taking care of patients and also the satisfaction of faculty in the hospital. And I think it's a great career. So I'm excited everybody's here and hope to be able to answer some questions. Just as a little bit, we're a categorical program, 6 residents a year. Our intern year is in-house and it's split between surgery and medicine, and then 3 years of anesthesia. Almost everything is at our hospital, with one rotation being at our ambulatory surgery center and then another rotation at the chronic pain clinic. But most everything is in-house in Burlington. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And next we'll move on to Dr. Romanelli.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Romanelli. I am the current program director at Montefiore Medical Center. I've been in that role for about 3 years now. I am a resident alum of Montefiore myself, so I do really take a lot of pride in this residency program. It gave a lot to me, and I can really attest, for recent alums over the last 10 years who I've seen go on to do really incredible things in anesthesia, and it's just given me so much in terms of my training with the flexibility, adaptability, versatility, and foundational leadership skills. We are a hybrid program currently with 11 categorical residents, 9 of which are categorical, 2 of which are for our research intensive track, 6 advanced spots, and 2 R spots that go directly into CA1 year. I'd say we're the official hospital for the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, which recently was in the news for becoming tuition free. We're the official hospital for the New York Yankees. We're just very high volume with a very complex patient population, many of whom are usually presenting very far into their disease pathology. So it's really a unique educational opportunity to train with us. And I think, you want to go to a residency program where ultimately you're going to be challenged. So look forward to hearing all your questions tonight, and should be fun.
Thank you. And next we'll move on to Dr. Aronsohn.
Hi, my name is Judy Aronsohn. I'm the program director at the North Shore LIJ sites for Zucker School of Medicine. And we're part of the Northwell health system. If you're from the East Coast, you'd probably be familiar with it. We have been a program director for 12 years, which is when I was recruited to come here to start a new residency program. So we haven't been around a long time compared to the other programs in the area where we're relative newcomers, but we are a growing program. We're categorical. We've doubled the size of our program or gotten permission to double the size of our program. So last year was our first class of 12 residents rather than 6. You can kind of look at it as a class of 6 when you think that about the fact that our residents train at 2 very large tertiary centers that are close together, which is Long Island Jewish Medical Center and North Shore University Hospital. We do any and every type of case that you can think of. We have tons of high-risk OB here. We have our own pediatric hospital, Cohen's Children's Medical Center, and we do every kind of transplant, liver, cardiac, you name it. And I don't expect this to be the only growth spurt that we're going to have, but right now it is the initial one. This is a growing and evolving program. And so if being part of that, of something like that is something that you find exciting or challenging, please feel free to ask me any more questions during this session, and I can tell you more about it.
Next,
Thank
we'll
you.
move on. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to Dr. Tang at Westchester.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vince Tang, one of the CA3 residents and chief residents at Westchester Medical Center. My plans for next year, I'm going into adult cardiothoracic fellowship at NYU. So happy to share my experience here and to tell you more about our program and what makes us great.
Thank you. And next, move on to Dr. Wang.
Hey everyone, my name's Megan. Nice to meet all of you. I'm a chief resident over at North Shore and LIJ. I'm super excited to meet all of you. My plans for next year are to stay on as an attending at North Shore, so it kind of shows how excited I am to stay with this program. But yeah, great to meet all of you, and I'm happy to meet any questions that you guys have.
Okay, thank you very much for all the introductions, and we'll move on to ask the first question of the day. What new changes are happening in your program? For example, is your program expanding or adding any new subspecialties? I know that a lot of you mentioned that already in the introduction.
Who's first?
And Dr. Stebbins, please, if you would like to start. So we can move on with Dr. Abramowicz, and then she'll come back.
So I think this is an interesting place. We're Westchester Medical Center. It used to be a county hospital. We have a catchment area of about 3 million people, all of Hudson Valley. This is where, we're very close to New York, 35 minutes. It takes me to 35 minutes to visit my kids on the Upper West Side. But our patients are really from the rural New York State. That is an interesting patient population. So yeah, I did work in the Bronx. It's not urban, it's very rural. Now, big changes because our surgical volume growth is just not abating. We just saw some numbers from the last 3 months. We're growing at a clip of about 5% this year. Last year was 7, the year before that was 10, year over year. So obviously there's a lot of growth happening also in terms of the size of the various educational programs. So I think we're up to about 650 trainees here within the institution. I think we're about to, this is like not completely clear, but we're about to acquire some more hospitals, which luckily do not have a GME footprint, so I don't think our residents are going there. We pulled out 2 residents from our affiliate at Dunbarry. So we had an affiliation with a community hospital across the border in Connecticut. 2 of these residents out of 4 are back in the fold because we now have, this lower acuity community level practice as well as trauma and everything else. We put in for an expansion to from I don't know if it's going to go through or not, but yeah, we may be expanding. We are not expanding our fellowships because, and I know my time is up, because the interest in fellowships is not great right now for reasons that pertain to the job market.
Thank you very much. And now we'll come back to Dr. Stebbins.
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Perfect. No huge major changes, I would say. The one thing I just did is made a new community rotation. Like everybody, our hospital has acquired a lot of smaller hospitals, and so we're the lead of the health network. We're the only level 1 trauma center in northern Vermont and northern New England, except for Dartmouth, which is a little over an hour south of us. And it's interesting. I think it either helps people decide what they want to do. One of our residents recently went and said, it made me realize that I don't want to be a community anesthesiologist. I want to do a fellowship. So I was pretty proud of that decision. But I think we are expanding in the sense that we are taking care of more patients. We're getting more critically ill patients. We have the volume and the numbers to increase the residency size, and that may be in the future. But for now, I think it's a really amazing opportunity for our residents to get great case numbers just in terms of peds. One of the benefits is they do all their rotations with us, and so they get a lot of numbers of different things. So no big, huge, major changes at this point, just continued improvement in all things. And yeah.
Thank you very much. And now on to Dr. Romanelli.
Thanks. So, I'd certainly love to see our resident size continue to grow. Last year, we thought it was a big jump going from 17 to 19, but really, the more the merrier. I really try to keep our residency program grounded in the present while also anticipating, the things that are coming down the pike for our department. We've expanded quite a bit and we continue to do so. We recently started a peds anesthesia ambulatory surgery service. Our ICU is predominantly anesthesia intensivist staffed, which I do think is a huge draw. And we recently made it such that now our PACU as well is completely staffed by those intensivists. So we're always looking to see how we can better tailor the PACU experience, particularly for our residents, subsequently, incorporate more POCUS training for our junior residents that are, newly working alongside those intensivists. We're actually moving into a bigger ICU this spring, so we're making the necessary preparations for that. I mentioned that we recently developed these new research residency tracks. Those are newly incorporated into the match. Those have been really successful so far, and it's going to be really great to take our inaugural class who are currently CA1s through to the finish line and really use their feedback to better tailor the experience for future residents. We have really burgeoning cardiac and lung transplantation programs at the hospital. We're really involved in Monty's. We have a comprehensive stroke center, which just keeps getting busier and busier, and they continue to innovate their practices. So we continue to evolve with all the things that are changing, and that's the hallmark of any good residency program is that you continue to evolve with what's going on locally.
Thank you very much. And now to Dr. Aronsohn.
Well, I already mentioned our first growth spurt. Of course, we've doubled from a class of 6 to 12. We only have one class of 12 so far. I don't expect that is going to be the last time that we grow. But one of the things that I like about this number is that even though we're in a very a huge health system, the program is still small enough that every resident gets individualized education. No one slips through the cracks. All of our faculty, teaching faculty at least, and of course me as the program director, we know every single one of our residents very, very well, and we work very closely with them on all levels of mentoring, guidance, supervision in the operating room, and research projects. And I feel that is kind of like a good magic number. Our fellowships currently are small. We have a chronic pain and we have a pediatric fellowship. I know we will be starting a cardiac fellowship down the line. There may be others coming after that. But again, all of our case numbers, continue to explode. But the residents are there for an education. So we're not expanding our numbers so fast that, because we need the resident work. We are ensuring that all of our residents get an excellent and personalized and individualized education in this program. And so we're doing it in a stepwise fashion to ensure that we do not lose that as we march forward and continue to grow in the future.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aronsohn. And we'll move on to the next set of questions, which is specifically tailored for residents, but also the program director can step in. The question is, what is the state of research in your program? Specifically, what kind of projects have been published recently? And first, we'll start off with Dr. Stebbins.
So one of the major research focuses that is going on in our department is intraoperative pulmonary ventilation and intrathoracic pressures. So one of our faculty members has a quite robust system that he had 4 medical students working with him this summer and has had residents working with him the past couple of years to do some clinical work, both during bariatric surgery and different positioning. So that's been one big one. Infant spinals is something that we have done quite a bit of publishing and that we're known for in the past. And I'd say those are the biggest ones that the residents are involved in right now.
Thank you very much. And next we'll move on to Dr. Romanelli.
Sure, I'd say, research is alive and well in our program. Our chair runs a very robust digital health research laboratory. And again, we have these research tracks. I think they're really unique in the sense that they offer really a lot of flexibility for residents to engage in research at a level that aligns with their interests. So whether they're looking to pursue an academic career or actually become a clinician scientist, or they just want to get a simple, clinical foundation research, we have tailored pathways for both, light and intensive research involvement. So it allows them to, craft a research experience that complements their clinical training without detracting from ACGME requirements, or otherwise wouldn't require an extension beyond their 4 years of training if all the graduation requirements are met. So we're actively always publishing. One of our intensive track research residents just published in ANA recently about the underrepresentation of female chairs in anesthesia. We were just published recently in Nature for developing sort of this new risk assessment prediction tool for, trying to determine which patients would benefit the most from anticoagulation medicines after non-cardiac surgery. We did something recently on basically saying that, there actually probably is a better benefit to doing deep sedation without endotracheal intubation for ERCPs. But yeah, it's things are always coming down the pike, and it really just matters, residents use like the clinical questions that they acquire in the clinical setting, and they can just quickly ask a question and run it through our digital health lab. So it's pretty cool.
Thank you very much. And now we'll move on to Dr. Wang.
Yeah, I would say the residents at our department are actively involved in research projects, whether it's clinical studies or quality improvement based projects. Something unique that our program have actually that I truly enjoyed was our 1 month of research time. That was in our intern year. I was able to really dive deep into a really, really great project that I've been working on with Dr. Aronsohn actually, because of that dedicated time for research. And personally, I felt incredibly fortunate to be a resident in this program because of the level of support that I've been given, both academically and also just given the financial backing towards these projects that I've been involved with over the past few years, whether it be at conferences or other research-related events.
Thank you very much. And now we'll move on to Dr. Tang.
I'll definitely call on Dr. Abramowicz to help me out here, but I would say we're not, known for being a research powerhouse. Definitely research is available. If you are interested, I would say the majority of our residents, are not the most interested in research, but it is available if you are interested. We recently, we have a full-on kind of research attending who is, very interested in getting residents involved. So I would say, if you are interested, the opportunities are definitely there.
So maybe I'll fill in. So we have basically three major areas. One is very robust, and it's I think we're very well known nationally for regional anesthesia for spine surgery, and that extends to the pediatric world. As you probably know, there's very little research happening in anesthesia, especially in regional anesthesia in pediatrics. There's a lot of problems related to that, IRB, etc. But there is underrepresentation of children. So we had a bunch of publications, and residents are involved in looking at a block that's called CCEP, which is a dorsal ramus. I'll make it very simple. Dorsal ramus block of the cervical nerve roots for Chiari malformations and posterior cervical spine surgery. So and then there's more. I mean, there's more as it pertains to spine surgery. And then the second track we have pertains to socioeconomic determinants of care in trauma and emergency management of pediatric patients. And that is also not studied properly. And, there's a lot of complexity in this, and I don't really have time to go into it, but you understand that when you have a lot of kids and that stigmatizes certain communities, so we have some ethical hoops to jump through, etc., that there is definitely much more trauma. And then the third one is really education. So we have some gigs going there, looking at various ways of making that educational program more accessible to people, and looking at also the sort of the ethical aspects of publishing, and the pressure of publishing, and there's a whole big overlay of that. So our residents also published in ANA. Not very long ago. His name is Aronsohn. He's just a CA1, and he's got more papers in the pipeline. So we have a few people, especially in the younger that are very interested and prolific, I would say. So yeah, we don't have Dr. Eicherman with his NIH money and 17 data scientists or however many, but we're quite productive and happy with our output. That's real clinical impact right there.
Thank you very much. And for these next set of questions, I'll pass it over to my colleague, Alexa.
Thank you, Noam. So for this next set of questions, this one will go to the program directors. And the question is, what do you think of the two recent anesthesia ERAS editions? One being the specialty specific questions and two being writing a short paragraph for the places we signal. And we'll start with Dr. Romanelli.
I'll mute myself. I would always just say more data is always welcomed. And I might say, like, on this question in particular, let's circle back next year and we'll tell you if it really did prove helpful. I think anything that can speak to the fact that you are making a well-informed decision about pursuing this field is helpful, because often it is a late in the game discovery. We like to see that people have given this ample thought beyond the typical, I like my pharmacology and physiology standard response. And especially if you are changing courses, specifically now, we have these R spots that go directly to CA 1 year, but there's sort of this element of, well, they became disenchanted with surgery or emergency medicine. Are there signs that might happen again? So it's just more information that I think that will ultimately prove helpful. I happen to like last year, there was that signal statement as part of the central app. If anything, it does just reinforce that you did your homework on the institution and aren't just applying blindly. Monty specifically is really a program where we want people who want to be challenged and want to get the most out of a residency program that they possibly can. And I like to see that applicants have explored how they can use our institutional resources to help them get to where they want to be 4 years from now. Beyond the excellent clinical training they're going to get, that they are motivated by the opportunities to possibly get involved in education or research or QI or advocacy work or simulation. So we just like to see that they've done their research and homework.
Thank you very much. This next question, the same question goes to Dr. Aronsohn.
In all honesty, I don't think much about the questions. I don't think they're particularly insightful. I don't think they're going to give me, ask me afterwards, me or the resident selection committee, any additional, information that couldn't actually be asked during the interview. And I think it would be more useful asked during an actual interview rather than, beforehand in a month before in an application. So my initial, I think they could have come up with better questions to ask for that part of, if they were going to add some specialty specific questions. Those questions aren't even specialty specific, quite frankly. So I am not at all impressed. And I don't expect it to move the needle much during the interview season. Or even with reviewing the application, I don't expect that that information is going to move the needle one way or another.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Abramowicz?
I'm Dr. Aronson's twin, born in another part of the world, but I completely agree. I mean, one is about adversity. The other one is like you made a bad decision. And the third one, I don't even know what it is. So, you know, this is kind of very contrived in my view. And I talked to Sarah because ultimately she's the one driving the recruitment. I think we all feel the same way here, is that this is just yet another hoop for the applicants to, you know, come up with clever answers and to what extent they're genuine. And I think the application itself, you know, tells you like, you know, what kind of a person you're dealing with. And the interview fills in the blank. So we're not impressed either. And I think that, you know, having to decide what to write, you know, and how you're like, you know, you're sending a goal to Judy and a goal to Eric and a goal to me, like, how's it going to be, whatever you write, how's it going to be different? You know, like, oh my God, you poor guys, like, you know, I would be kind of drunk if I had to fill out these applications these days. So I feel for you, and I don't think it's going to help us very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abramowicz. And Dr. Stebbins.
I personally feel like there is some utility to it. I think with COVID in 2020, when we went to virtual interviews, we saw people applying to every single program out there. And I think as program directors and people screening, it was nearly impossible to figure out who actually wanted to come to your program and who was just pan applying. And I think this is at least one way of bringing a little bit of equity back in terms of people are not making financial decisions of applying and traveling to all these programs, but they're having to put a little bit more effort into the programs that they're applying to. So I do think there is some utility in it. I did use Central App last year until it kind of crashed mid-year, and then I switched over to ERAS and Thalamus. And I really liked the signal statement. So I'm not sure about all the additional questions, but I liked the signal statement to figure out why. And maybe it is because maybe it's more useful to different programs. And if you want to be in New York City, you know, you have multiple programs that you can apply to. But if you want to come to Vermont, I want to know why you want to be here, because it's a little bit further out of the way. It's a little bit harder to travel to. It's an amazing place to train. I too am a product of our residency program. And I love it and I will advocate for it. But there are a lot of amazing programs out there. But personally, I liked the signal statement last year when I was looking at it in the Common App.
Thank you so much. What a diverse take on, you know, this one question. For this next question, it will go to the residents, and the program directors can also comment as needed. Are there opportunities to generate extra income that the department program sponsors? Is moonlighting in the program allowed? And we'll start with Dr. Romanelli.
Sorry, I keep forgetting how to like unmute myself. So we certainly do offer moonlighting. It's limited to our obstetric service at one of our more low risk sites where the residents do get a lot of independence, and they really they really relish and enjoy that experience. I think we always just harken back to like what the ACGME says about moonlighting, which is like you have to make sure that moonlighting isn't interfering with, you know, resident fitness for work, and it should never compromise patient safety. My resident, had they joined tonight, he had a family issue, but usually we compensate for joining these kind of panels, actually. So still give them something. But, you know, contractually, I don't know if you were asking if we can moonlight outside of the institution. And I know that at least contractually, full-time attendings at Monte, we don't moonlight outside of our own institution. And I don't know if the ACGME stipulates either whether moonlighting for residents is allowed to occur in that fashion, but you know, I would think for liability purposes, it would generally be frowned upon. But that's just to say, you know, we do offer moonlighting, and yeah, we do have residents plenty who take advantage of it.
Thank you so much. Dr. Wang?
Yeah, there's certainly plenty of opportunities to moonlight for residents at our program. Every resident is essentially welcome to pick up extra shifts once they've passed the basic exam. So essentially like CA2s and CA3s, so long as they don't interfere with their own clinical, you know, mandatory responsibilities. One of the running jokes actually in our program is that one of our old chiefs was able to pay for a rather expensive and luxurious wedding in Italy. I know Dr. Aronsohn knows what I'm talking about, strictly from moonlighting shifts. So that kind of gives you a clue as to how well they pay when you pick up moonlighting shifts here.
I just want to add also that you do need to pass your basic exam first. Of course, there's some regulations around the moonlighting. that you need to get approval, you need to be a resident in good standing, but outside moonlighting is not allowed in Northwell. You can only moonlight within the department. And another way, time is money. You can also pick up extra days off if you work late. So if you get stuck late in the operating room, you can bank those hours to extra days off as well, and do what you want with those days. You can go to the beach where you can, moonlight if you'd like, and obviously you cannot go over duty hours when you moonlight, and I watch that pretty carefully, so.
Thank you very much. Dr. Tang.
Currently, we do not allow moonlighting, but the good news is that we just ratified a new CIR contract, which is the Committee on Interns and Residents. So as a result of that, we are in the pipeline of making moonlighting allowed, and we're trying to currently hash out the details in terms of who can do it, what the shifts will look like, and the compensation. So I believe it's only will be through our home institution and won't allow us to moonlight at external places.
So I'll just add that, this is kind of the quirks of certain, our institution is actually the faculty practice that compensates physicians completely separate from the hospital, which pays resident salaries. So this has become like it's interesting to watch, I thought this guy, Franz Kafka, was completely crazy when I read his novels when I was, sort of in my early 20s. Well, I'm living it now. So they try to figure out how to pay residents who get their salary in the hospital from the faculty practice pool. All right, I'll keep you posted, but it's going to happen.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Stebbins.
We don't have moonlighting. There was one special incident where I was going to get kind of urgent approval from our GME committee to allow it to happen. It ended up being a weekend that none of the residents were available, so I didn't go through with it. But our residents are pretty happy and they don't feel the need for it. They have a union contract. They're coming up on 3 years, and they feel like with the salary increase that they had, they don't have the need for moonlighting because they feel like they have livable wages for where they are and don't feel the need for the extra money. And so they use that time to study, work, and then have their life outside of work. So there are some programs in the GME that do it, but it's all direct or indirect supervision. Nobody's working independently except for some of our fellows in like MFM fellows that might cover general OB, but not in the anesthesia department.
Thank you so much. And with that, I'll toss it over to Noam.
Thank you, Alexa. I think something that a lot of the students are wondering is, this is geared towards program directors. Is artificial intelligence or AI used at your program to review applications? If so, in what capacity is it utilized? And we'll start off with Dr. Aronsohn.
Of course, I'd get this one. The answer is no. The program is, still small enough, I feel, even though the number of applications have been going up every year, that between the 4 people who are on the resident selection committee, I personally look at every application that comes into the program. And between actually there's 6 of us on the resident selection committee, it is definitely doable for each of us to review all of the applications ourselves. Maybe if you're in a huge program and you may need the help of AI. My experience with AI, I've had a lot of great experience with AI outside of this, venue. And I think you have to be very careful with it. It's not always accurate. I don't want anybody falling through the cracks or somehow not getting picked up because AI made a mistake in its review, and AI does still make a lot of mistakes. So we do not use it for this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aronsohn. And we'll move on to Dr. Romanelli.
Yes, definitely agree. I'll mention that, like, last year, I think we were all given trial access to this kind of program, and I'm blanking on the name, where you made a profile for your program, you assign weights to things that you valued most in an applicant. You could set all these various parameters. It spit out who they thought aligned best, and I didn't personally love it. I more use it as a tool towards the end just to see if I had potentially missed anybody worthwhile, but ultimately, call me old-fashioned, but there's already enough depersonalization I think that AI is fostering. And I think, and then it's on the converse end, we've also kind of developed kind of keen eyes towards where we know also if an application is nearly all AI generated, or there's kind of a big enough discrepancy between, how the applicant presents on paper in terms of their written eloquence versus how they actually verbalize their thoughts in an interview. So, if you use it as a crutch now to effectively speak for you, you're probably going to be at a disadvantage when you interview or later on when you take your oral boards, for instance. Now, I'd say, my version of AI this year is really going to be more specifically, and we'll probably talk more about the signals, I'm sure, later. But, I had trained some folks last year in reviewing applications, and I hope to get the same band back together. But they would take notes on the applications. They would tease out all the information that, for when I actually reviewed it myself, and, they saw their preliminary scoring. Ultimately, though, I would still AI is on every application. I know I'm running on time.
It's very helpful. And next, we'll move on to Dr. Stebbins.
So you're 3 for 4 now. My guess is you might be 4 for 4, but I don't use AI either. I do prioritize the signaled applications, but I review the applications. I think, with the team, and I've been doing it for a long time, and I've gotten guidance from some of my mentors. I see a lot and I recognize patterns. So I feel like I'm my own AI, and that, our group can see the patterns and see that scoring, but I don't use it.
Thank you very much. And last, Dr. Abramowicz.
So here is a contrarian view. So I feel so incredibly badly for the 1,100 people that applied to our program last year. We decided we can't read all the applications. So, we sort them, right? So signals, we'll talk about it. So what we did last year is we taught Cortex, which is, the sort of AI overlay of Thalamus, certain things that we actually value in our applicants, okay? So that's kind of a little proprietary, but I'll give you a hint. We really value work experience, for example. So for example, if you were, doing like catering work, while in high school, that's good. Because you know what a bad client's all about, you know how to get tips and things like that. We like that. So the problem is, that we don't really know which keywords are going to work because it reads that whole PDF that the application is really a lot of words. And I agree with, whoever said that some of it can be actually used by a large language model or just written by, but anyway, we did that. And we also did in parallel something else. We used Medicratic, which is the company that I think Dr. Romanelli mentioned. They had a proprietary AI-driven software that's called Halstead, which, and if you heard, and there was an announcement that they actually merged with Thalamus this year. Good on these two kids. One of them is currently an ENT resident, and the other one is a med student at the University of Pennsylvania. I believe he's third year. So I want to say is that I believe it's the future in a way. I also hope that the shape of the application will change to allow more creativity, for people to talk about themselves and things like that. Because right now it's like so incredibly stiff and regimented. And overall, I will full disclosure. So as much as we were excited, it was a bit of a dud. So in other words, our system of sorting people and selecting those that we want to interview did not really overlap very well with our ability to train, whatever was given to us, the AI software or technology. We didn't train it correctly. So, we had discrepant results, but we are very excited about it. I think we're going to continue to learn how to use it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abramowicz. It's nice to see a difference, but this next question is geared more towards the residents, but of course, program directors can step in. Can you speak to how you handle resident learning? Is this more self-driven, or is there a didactic curriculum? In addition, is there any support for step 3? We'll start with Dr. Wang.
I would say it's a mixed bag, I would say. There's a lot of education days that we have, roughly speaking, about once a month, sometimes twice a month, that are essentially full days dedicated towards either sim work or lecture-based didactics. So those are great educational days. This past one that we had was actually like pretty focused on oral board review. On the other hand, though, there's plenty of time for us to essentially dive deep into our textbooks and read and do true learn questions and whatnot. So I would say personally, it's like a mixed bag, 50-50 in terms of resident driven versus more guided by the program.
Thank you very much. And now we'll move on to Dr. Tang.
Yeah, I would also kind of agree with that. I think in residency you learn that it's a mixed bag, and it's definitely a blend of both. At Westchester we have a pretty robust didactic curriculum, which we've been trying to revamp for the past 3 years, as long as I've been here. We have a very energetic lead, Dr. Richard Young, who's kind of taking the head on kind of revamping and making didactics more relevant and more interesting for the residents. I will say though, due to our kind of excellent work-life balance, we have a lot of time off to, kind of self-study and read and, listen to podcasts or however you learn best. But I do believe that also our didactic curriculum has been improving. The quality has definitely increased the past 3 years. We have a mix of simulation sessions, mock oral boards, and a more interactive POCUS curriculum that we've introduced in the last year or two with our also our sim lab that we have, which can incorporate TE as well. So I think that we have a good mix of both, and it's only getting better in my opinion.
I just want to add quickly that we have every Thursday afternoon is a didactic afternoon. And then we alternate, and the block is a 4-week block, a rotation block. So CA1's one Thursday, CA2's second Thursday, CA3's third Thursday, and the fourth Thursday we call a Super Thursday. Everybody gets together for sessions that are of interest to different levels. And then, we obviously have some extra sessions in the beginning of the year for the CA1s on Tuesday afternoons, and then towards the end of the year for the PGY ones that are about to become CA1s also on Thursday. So we have a lot of activities. I would say probably on the average, every resident has at least 6 hours of didactics geared towards their class, plus all the other stuff that's available, journal clubs that are initially within subspecialties if someone is interested, and grad.
Thank you very much. And now we'll move on to Dr. Romanelli.
So I thank my lucky stars every day that I have an outstanding director of curriculum named Dr. Angela Vick, who I don't know, many of you may be familiar with her, but she's been doing this for over 25 years, and I pray she never retires, honestly. But we have a contingency plan in place, and so really runs the gamut from literally everything. I mean, you have to understand the first year really is very much dedicated towards the basic board exam, so we're really teaching towards that exam. At the same time, I started something. I'm losing my voice. Towards for our more senior residents during the same time that the CA1s have resident, that we call the resident education hour, where the senior residents get to kind of get involved in either with like mock oral board training, or they do QI talks, or we do problem-based learning discussions. They have their own separate didactic schedule as well, which is usually subspecialty driven. So, we have a cardiac month, and then we have a pediatric month, and then an ICU month. And each time, all the assessments and everything are, directly linked towards whatever subspecialty block we're within. Similarly, we do a lot of workshops. One of our faculty is really interested in emergency front of neck access, so we offer those like on a monthly basis. We do basically every subspecialty service also has their own lecture series as well. So the critical care team has their own, the pediatric team has their own. So there's all these different opportunities for people to get involved and engage in those didactic opportunities as well. So pretty robust, and we're really happy with how all that works out.
Yes, Dr. Abramowicz. Dr. Abramowicz, you're muted.
You asked about step 3, sorry, yes. And so I want to add that the PGY ones, we have they do 2 weeks of backup. This is in internal medicine based only. So they do about 26 weeks of internal medicine related stuff, and the rest is anesthesia related. So within the internal medicine part, they do some backup weeks that, they get lucky, they are home. And there is one dedicated week that we call medical education week that's specifically geared toward, that final push towards step 3. So we actually have about up to 3 weeks of dedicated to, I mean, you call it dedicated, you know, as much as you can be dedicated when you have a job. But yes, that gives people an opportunity to really prepare for step 3.
And Dr. Stebbins, if you have enough time, if you'd like to take the question.
Sure. So our PGY1 residents, we have a independent study curriculum. So when they're on surgery or medicine, when the surgery or medicine residents are at their didactic, they leave that and then have their own independent study curriculum. So I set that up for them. We also provide access to UWorld and pay for their step 3 exam. And then the CA1s to CA3, the CA1s have what we call CA1 boot camp during the summer. So we have a didactic curriculum just for them for 4 days a week, most afternoons during the summer, where we go through the basics of anesthesia. And then starting in September, all CA1s have lecture on Tuesday afternoons from 2 to 5. And so part of it is an ABA content outline didactic session. So we divide the ABA content outline up. And so part of it is that. And then the other part is written board review, a little bit of oral board review, simulation, professional development, wellness, things like that, or POCUS. And then the CA2s and 3s have lecture on Thursdays from 2 to 5. There's a rotating 2-year curriculum to cover the advanced content outline from the ABA didactic session, and they do more oral board sessions. And we're really good at getting our residents out for lectures. So we have faculty and or APPs. We have CRNAs and AAs who will go into rooms or work solo so that our residents can get out. But pretty well-defined curriculum and time dedicated to lecture. And we also do journal club and grand rounds and M&M and things like that.
Thank you. And I'll pass it over to my colleague, Alexa.
Thank you. This question goes to the program directors. What do you value most in an applicant? Would you say your program is more holistic or more score-focused when reviewing applications and creating a rank list? And we'll start with Dr. Stebbins.
I would say both. I would say more holistic in reviewing, and then we have a group of people that will score the applicant during the interview process, and then in creating the rank list, there's a lot of different factors, including some board scores that go on there to actually create the rank list. But I'd say it's both. It's holistic and numbers based.
Thank you very much. And then Dr. Abramowicz.
Well, I hate to say that, but programs stand on 3 legs. One of them is board pass rate. So we definitely look for people who have a track record of success. And that can be measured in many different ways. And I'm not going to tell you that step 2 is the only way, obviously. Now, if you got into a competitive medical school, you clearly know how to study, right? So there is the combination of things, but we do definitely look at academic success as one of the major criteria. Now, are we suckers for a good story? Yes, we are. And this is part of, we have currently an educational research project, because it's a longitudinal thing. For 10 years, we have evaluations, and we know how people did. Even though we love them during the interview, they don't necessarily do that great. So we are very humble, and we realize the shortcomings of our application review system. But yeah, I told you that 3 legs. And one is how successful the recruitment is. So we kind of have to gauge our competitiveness. Dr. Stebbins said she's the only game in town, basically. She has Dartmouth to contend with. I mean, I have all these big gorillas, like literally my background, my backyard. So I know that I'm not Columbia and not Cornell. I'm not even Montefiore, even though, I think I'm better, but that's okay. And so that is reality, and we have to know how to recruit people, the appropriate people. They want to be in a trauma center that love action. So it comes about the personality traits, yes? If you like elective surgery and you have a lot of rigidity in you, you're going to be unhappy here, because you come in to do something and then there's a liver transplant that, starts. So you have to love that. And the final thing that I will say is that we absolutely have to have a positive survey. That's, the ACGME wants to know how we're doing. That survey is the 3rd leg of our existence. And if the residents are unhappy here, the survey is terrible. And we want people who are happy, who want to be here. And let's go to the signals, because I think that's part of it, Like just you guys, you want to reach for the skies, but you also know how competitive you are. You need to be applying to the right programs, and hopefully you have the right advisors to steer you and guide you. And not everything's in a name. That's all.
Dr. Romanelli?
Couldn't agree more, Dr. Abramowicz, except for the part about we're on equal playing fields. Again, yeah, really value for most part is really the personality traits. By virtue of interviewing with us, at that point, we really are led to believe that you have the prowess to succeed academically, but there's not much that we can go off to say that candidates will otherwise succeed clinically or professionally. So whatever we can uncover about, your personability, your professionalism, your courteousness, your desire to work with underserved populations, that's going to really go a long way. So, we do dive deep into, I'll read the letters of rec, at least, first and last paragraph, any of the comments in the MSPE, about how you work specifically in a team-based environment when you were on your rotations within medical school. And then ultimately really does come down a lot to how you come off in your interview. You can have all the smarts in the world, but, if you are, an unpleasant person or found to be like undependable, or you're the poor communicator, someone who thinks they know everything and doesn't, regularly incorporate faculty feedback into your practice, it doesn't really translate well into this field. I'll mention, we do seek out people who have a sense of mission, and want to take care of underserved patient populations. So those things tend to shine through on their applications and by like the level of experience and commitment that they've given to those things. When we see things that are kind of more in like a laundry list fashion, that, it looks very evident that they're just doing that, to, pad their resume, that they, just did a little bit of community service here and there, versus the person who really engaged and made it into like a life, commitment. We can kind of tell these things.
Thank you so much. And then Dr. Aronsohn?
I kind of almost don't understand the question, because a holistic review does include the scores and your academic performance and your research and, everything that's in the application. So everything in the application has a score in our program, and there's a 1 to 5 scoring, Likert scale for, the hard data, the numbers, and then the, personal statements, letters of recommendation, and interview skills, things that we have listed on our interview list. And you're ranked according to that score, period, end of story. We don't lean on, you can have a horrible, I'm not gonna say horrible score. I mean, if you didn't pass step 1, you may have a problem getting an interview, but you can have a lower score and make it all up on all the other things that are in your application, and vice versa. So we do it that way in order to try to mitigate any bias that, occurs during the review of the applications and during the interview season. We average the scores of all the interviewers, and that's how we come up with the final number, and that's how the applicants get ranked. But it includes everything, and everything has a possibility of having, just as high scores as anything else.
Thank you so much. And this next question is also for the program directors. What is your program's approach to signals? Do you seriously consider those who give a silver signal? This is from our Slido questions. And we'll start with Dr. Abramowicz.
Okay, so, these are all geographically very, I think, different distributions of signals. And New York is particularly competitive, as you know, a lot of programs, notable programs that are super competitive and very, very large are in New York. So if you look at the stats, because everything's available now on the Residency Explorer, you'll see that we don't get a lot of gold signals. Because, if you want to be in New York, I mean, maybe you don't want to be in the suburbs of New York, right? So yeah, we pay attention to the signals. We pay attention to the silver signals very much, very, very much. All the signals, actually. Now, I'll be honest with you, not everybody that signals us is a viable candidate. So we review those applications with particular care, because we hate to reject people who think that, we would be a good fit for them, but some of them are not. Some of those applicants are not. And I do believe that that's because maybe they don't have, they may not have a home anesthesiology program, that their advisory system is not very strong. So that's part of the issue. But I think, honestly, what happened with the signals is that I was on the council when they decided that we would have the 2-tier system, the 5 golds and the 10 silvers. And I'm telling you how that is. I mean, the big high name, good name, big name recognition programs, they only want to look at golds. That's what they want, 2 tiers. Okay, that's just the way it is. So don't wait your goals. Make sure that you really know where you're applying. And yes, signals matter a lot.
Thank you very much. Dr. Romanelli?
So yeah, this will be my 3rd cycle with the signals, and I think we all kind of come to it now with like anecdotal experiences about what has worked for us. But clearly, signals are here to stay. I think what has been most surprising, and has made me even rethink some of it, is however we've concocted our rank list at the end of the season, who ultimately matches is something like 75% plus gold. Initially gold signals. So I naturally, have to give that some pause, especially now as I sift through what's been about like say 250 golds, 400 to 450 silvers, both cycles, and really how we approach the silver signals, I think is going to really kind of come into play more this cycle. Because I kind of feel this sort of necessity to do some sort of course correcting, in that I know that most people are bulk applying to New York City programs, and it might sound trite, but if you are, say, a hyper competitive applicant who is sending us a silver, yes, we're going to review your application. We're going to review your application because I'm still of the mentality that any signal warrants a full holistic review, but I quickly know now, more so from experience, that, and we also get the list of where everyone ultimately matches. So I can usually tell from an application that I know that it's going to be low yield for us to interview someone who's ultimately going to go to one of the bigger name programs. And, that might sound a little unfair because I now also know a handful of those hyper competitive applicants who didn't end up matching, most likely because, they only got interviews from their golds. Maybe all of those goals were actually reaches, so it really is just so important to figure out where you ultimately align best. I've heard the strategy of do like 2 reach programs, 1 solid alignment, 2 safeties, with a caveat that really no one is a safety right now. So good.
Thank you very much. Dr. Aronsohn?
Yeah, we interview golds and silvers. Again, I agree with Dr. Abramowicz, and not everybody who sends you a signal is necessarily a good match or a candidate for the program. So we don't automatically interview everybody that sends us a signal, but I go through all the golds, all the signals. Of course, we consider the golds first because they're the ones that show the strongest interest in the program, but we take both groups seriously and interview as many as possible out of that group. I'm not going to go into strategy because I use that strategy for our medical students, and I don't think anybody wants to sit through another explanation of strategy, but hopefully they all have good advisors. Everybody listening has good advisors at their medical schools or in their anesthesia programs who will help them appropriately distribute those signals depending on what their goals are and what their other preferences are.
Thank you so much. And so for these last couple minutes, we're going to give each program and their residents about 2 minutes to say anything you like about the program, about this application cycle. And we'll start with Dr. Abramowicz and Dr.
Okay, so that is a very tall order because I really we started this forum by just exchanging impressions as to what this year is going to be like. So I have a sense somehow, I don't know, based on the number of applicants from New York Medical College, that maybe this is the inflection year. In other words, that there will be fewer applicants altogether, and maybe even the caliber of applicants may not be as impressive. And that means, in my view, that the specialty maybe is becoming less competitive. So this is one trend that I sense happening, but we'll see at the end of the month. And the other trend that's happening is that every program is growing by leaps and bounds because there's a huge shortage of anesthesiologists. And the average age of an anesthesiologist in the United States is, like 50s, mid-50s or more. So there will be a wave of retirements, and there's a huge, huge, huge need for specialists in this field. So how that balances out, I don't know. This is all a big game, and I guess we'll see. Now, the other thing I want to say is that, we're a big trauma center, burn center, peds hospital, solid organ transplant. a huge ECMO center. And as you know, all these things are evolving very quickly. ECMO is becoming now the primary treatment for ARDS. I mean, nobody putting these patients on a ventilator, or not, maybe not everybody. We have exit procedures, like small volume of OB cases, but a lot of it is just very, very high end. And so it's a great place for somebody who's like an adrenaline junkie. Not too much rigidity, loves to do stuff that comes their way, and one hospital primarily, so very little call, generally speaking, and very good lifestyle, and hopefully we'll get you the money for the extra, shifts, because cost of living in Westchester is kind of very high. That's all I will say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Romanelli?
Sure. I mean, I think, to what Dr. Abramowicz has also said, a lot of our graduates in the last couple of years have notably gone into private practice, likely in no small part because of all the financial incentives. But we'd love to see more people who are passionate about academics and, envision themselves, say, doing a fellowship or becoming a clinician educator, clinician scientist, who aspire to leadership in academic medicine. We need more folks who are committed to those paths. And I hope programs are keeping that in mind, when reviewing applications too, because it's something that we're all going to need to address. It has ramifications for the future of residency education. As again, our senior colleagues are going to retire. We need to find people quickly who are going to be able to fill those gaps. So, and if we can't do that, it could very well, translate, to attrition of other faculty and academics. So, it's one of those things where I'm not telling people like what we're specifically looking for in our applications, but there is kind of this like a little bit of a mindset of thinking, okay, is this someone who ultimately, will potentially leverage the resources of our program to really get to where they want to be in 4 years? And hopefully that might be actually in a career in academics. I'm not like precluding anyone who actually has private practice ambitions per se, but we want people who are going to be call taking, who are going to be invested in the future of resident education. So these are all the things that I think that we have to also just be, mildly cognizant of. And, if you do have a passion for those things, I think that any of these programs, and particularly ours, I think would be, great fits for you. So hope to look forward to reviewing everyone's applications. And I hope we have a great cycle. I can't believe it's back up on us again, but here we are.
Thank you so much. Dr. Aronsohn?
Well, I don't know that I can add more to what the previous two have already said. That much. I think we all have great programs. I think New York is filled with great programs, and Vermont, but she's not here. So I'm not going to mention Vermont anymore. I think that the most important thing for the people that are listening and the applicants are listening to is that there are, some subtle and some major differences, and some of our programs are going to align more closely to what your long-term goals are than others. And at the end of the day, you need to do your homework, go to the open houses, go to the websites, go to the dinners, the virtual dinners, the get-togethers, get as much time as you feel that you need and as much information as you feel that you need, and so that you can differentiate between even the small differences, so that you end up in a place that you really love, because you want to be in a place that you enjoy training. And what makes training enjoyable to you is going to be different than maybe the person sitting next to you. We can't make that decision for you. We aren't even really choosing you as much as you are choosing us. So as much information as you can get about the opportunities, the size, the cases, the culture, the feel, whatever it is, the lifestyle, whatever it is that's important to you, you need to get that information and go from there. Because I think that anybody sitting in this room is going to give you a great education.
Thank you very much.
Judy left 30 seconds. Let me just say the following. It's not all in the name. Just get off that, mindset. That's just so really counterproductive. And that's one thing. And then the other thing I want to say is any major medical center will give you great training. And it's all about what you really want. Geography, support system, where is it located, and things like that. So yeah, I echo Dr. Aronsohn, just do your homework. And 8 of our 13 CA3s graduating in 2026 are doing fellowships.
It's funny, I just want to add that although the Dr. Abramowicz and also Dr. Romanelli have mentioned that there may be a downtrend in applicants for on the student side, we definitely feel desperate to get to whatever possible good education we can. And there are different sides to it. I would just like to also add that as for what Dr. Aronsohn mentioned, that Dr. Stebbins had to walk away, but she did want us to mention that there is a virtual open house for the University of Vermont at 9 a.m. tomorrow if anyone is interested.
That concludes our panel for the night. Thank you all for joining us, and for those watching in the future, I hope you had a good experience and learned a lot from all these program directors. Thank you all for joining our panel tonight. Thank you, residents. We really appreciate all the time you take out of your busy schedule to teach us students and encourage us on our path forward. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.